Hey, everybody. How are you? Today we're going to be talking about another concept, the binding principles, the three binding principles. This concept or theory existed since the start of the framework. The previous theory that existed before the minimalist program was called government and binding. Some of you might be familiar with it. It was actually named binding after the binding theory. So governments in binding is partially named after the binding theory, or maybe even fully now that I think about it, because the government part is there. We have governments in the binding theory, as we shall see shortly. Without further ado, let's get started. So, as I said, there exists three binding theories that help us make sense of nominal expressions, so to say, in sentences. The first one is simply referred to as binding principle A, and this is what it says. An anaphor, like himself, anaphors are like things such as himself, herself, themselves, and so on, must be bound by or refer to a C commanding constituent within the closest TP immediately contained in it. Now, in syntax, in minimalist syntax, there's a lot of nested theories. Here we're referring to C command or C commanding constituents. If you're not sure about what that means, you can go check my other video about C command. Now, this sentence that we're given over here, John saw himself, we have an anaphor himself, and the sentence is perfectly grammatical. The reason why it's grammatical is simply because it abides by the binding principle A that we've mentioned above. Now let's give it a tree diagram. I'll walk you through the steps that I'm taking, and in the end we'll explain how the anaphor is actually bound, aka C commanded, by its by the constituent that it refers to. In this case, is John in this sentence. So let's start. Again, in the minimalist syntax, we always start we start at the bottom of the sentence. So we're gonna start with the mirror. My handwriting is gonna be terrible, but I hope you would make sense of what I'm jotting down. The mirror is obviously a DP, no need to split it. Then we have in. In is the head of a prepositional phrase. This in merges with the mirror and they give us a prepositional phrase. After this, we move on to another DP. This is a P, and this DP is headed by a pronoun, a reflexive pronoun. In this case, it's himself. And this DP again combines with a VP this time, and it gives us the head V, which is the verb saw. Now we're going to move on to the T or TP, which is going to be split. We're going to have a T bar first of all, and I'm running out of room. So the tense here is obviously the past, which we're going to use PST to refer to, or as I like to call it, pst. Then after this, we're finally going to go to the TP, and the TP will have in its subject or in its specifier position, that is to say here, our pronoun, in this case, our subject, sorry, in this case, the DP, John. Okay, where's the anaphor here? Himself. It must be bound, refer to its C commanding constituent. It's John. C command says that first we go one station towards the north. Then we take the southern stations. We just keep going south and south and south. So we go the first one, the second one, the third one, and then we keep going south and we find himself. Is it C command? Is John C commanding himself? Yes. So is himself bound in its immediate TP, in the immediate TP containing it? The answer is yes. Hence the sentence is correct. I hope this was clear. Let's move on to an incorrect sentence that is deemed ungrammatical because it simply doesn't want to listen, doesn't follow the binding principle A. Moving on. Drop the pen. Use the mouse. This is a bad sentence. It's bad because it doesn't have a full stop, but it's also bad because it has the little star. Hang on. The full stop, does it go after the star or before the star? We leave it like this. Okay. Again, let's draw the tree diagram for this sentence. Let's not use red for now. Let's use white, and let's start. This time the sentence will start with himself. We all know that himself in this case will be our, let's just call it a DP in this case, because we don't want to split that and go into the details. And then you have likes. We're already going to the V here, so it's the verb likes. Then it's a verb that heads the structure of a VP. Moving on, we have marry. So marry, in this case, again, we have the tense. We need to give that. It's an abstract head carry in the tense present now. Or I would like to call it press, which is less funny than psst. My bad. Okay, moving on to a TP. The TP will give us the subject, the determiner phrase, which is the subject in this case. It's marry. Okay, I need to start writing smaller because we're running out of room again. Here we have a CP. The CP is headed by that, a complementizer phrase. Then after the CP, we're going to have a VP, and the VP will give us a V. Sorry, this should be a C. We should give us a V, and the V is sad. The past is coming back. Then we'll go to a T bar, T, and because it's sad, the abstract head is psst. And finally, sooner I need to learn how to write in smaller font. This is not sustainable. TP will give us the DP. And DP is our subject finally. John. This is terrible. This is terrible. Okay. Now let's analyze. Here we have himself. This is our anaphoric expression. An anaphor must be bound, see commended, by its referring and constituent. Here you might be thinking like, John, after all, actually this expression does see commend himself, because what do we need to do? We go one step to the north. That's a terrible arrow. We go one step to the north to the TP. Then we just go going south, 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 south. If we abide by the definition of see command strictly, it is see command in it. So why is the sentence ungrammatical still? It is ungrammatical because you have to read the whole thing. You need to pay attention to the rest of what principle A says. So not only should we bound, but that binding should happen in the closest TP immediately contained in it. This is what makes it ungrammatical, because the closest TP containing the anaphoric expression himself is this. So it should be bound here, but it can't be bound here because himself is masculine and marry is a feminine. So we know that himself is ought or supposed to refer to John, but in this case, the only way to fix the sentence is maybe to change himself to herself. In that case, we're changing the meaning, and we're also saying that it is Mary that binds himself. Herself in that case. But anyways, not only it should be see commended, governed, it also should be done in the TP that immediately dominates it. This is why the sentence, John said that Mary likes himself, is ungrammatical. That was it for principle A. Now let's move on to principle B. Use the mouse. Scroll to the side. Show what the principle says. Why is this example here now? Pretend everything was planned. Okay, so what does this say? Binding principle B says a pronominal like him, her, them, and so on must not be bound in by any C commanding constituent within the closest TP immediately containing it. Basically the opposite of principle A. So if principle A says that the anaphoric expression should be bound, principle B says the pronominal like him, her, themselves, them, and so on should not be bound in the TP that immediately dominates it. It could be part of the same structure, but it should be free of binding. Let's analyze the example we have. John saw himself in the mirror. Sorry, John saw him in the mirror, not himself. I'm going to use the white pen, just like the previous example, and let's get started. Again, we have the mirror. Some of the writing will go behind my, well, but it just says mirror anyways. So again, this is a DP, then we have a P, the P is in. These two will both combine, they will give us a PP, prepositional phrase, and then you have him is a DP, it's headed by the pronoun him. Then this is supposed to be a DP. Sometimes the D's look like P's. What was that? Oh, gotta be careful what I'm doing here. A D. There's a tiny bit here that's triggering my OCD, so I need to do it again. Sorry, bear with me. If you want knowledge, comes with a price. Okay, good. This is the best D in the history of D's. Okay, DP. Well, where was I? Okay, a DP. Then we have a VP. The VP will give us a V. The V is so. The VP then will take us to a T bar. The T bar will take us to T. The T will be pst. And we go to a TP, and the TP will be the DP. John. Okay, now if you've noticed here, the sentence doesn't have the star next to it because it is grammatical. This sentence can be grammatical or ungrammatical at the same time. Depends how we interpret it. First, let's start with the correct interpretation. Here, when we have John, if you look at John, it is C commanding the pronominal expression him. And also, they both belong to the same TP, like John and him, they belong to the same TP. But what we're saying here, if we consider the sentence grammatical, what we're saying is actually him does not refer to John. It refers to someone else, another entity. So let's read it with this interpretation. John saw him in the mirror. John saw another man in the mirror, not himself. So John saw another person. So are we respecting principle B in this case? Yes, because what we're saying is him can never refer to John. If I read the sentence, John saw him in the mirror, I'm immediately thinking that him is someone else. Now, let's try to put a star here and interpret it the same in an incorrect way. And let's make it ungrammatical. What if we say, John saw him in the mirror, and I meant to say that him is actually John. Now, this will be ungrammatical simply because it breaks principle B. That tells me any pronominal expression like him, her, them, and so on should not be bound in its in the TP in a TP. It should not be bound in a TP. Maybe in another TP. Let's say there is another embedded sentence. Yes, we can use that, but not in the same TP. It should be free, not bound in the TP that dominates it. All right, that was it for principle B. Now let's move on to the last one, principle C, which is also not that difficult. We're almost there. C, okay. Let's read what it says here. An R expression is when we use names of people, and also the president, for example. It's a noun that refers to someone specifically. It's not pronouns. We're not talking pronouns anymore. So an R expression must not be co-referential, must not refer to any C commanding expression within the overall tree structure containing in it. So an R expressions just don't refer to anything. If pronouns do actually refer to things in the sentence when they're mentioned, especially pronominal and anaphoric pronouns as we've seen, R expressions, proper names and nouns of like positions, things like that, places and so on, they just must never be bound by interpretation to any C commanding expression within the overall structure. So we need to use our knowledge of the context or knowledge of what the actual semantic expression or semantic meaning of that expression is, and then we'll be able to deduce that meaning based on that. But anyways, let's give it a tree. This will be the last one we're going to do, so hang in there. Let's give it a tree diagram, and then we're good to go. So we have happy, which would be an adjective in this case. And so it's an adjective phrase. And then we will have a VP. In this case, it would be the V is. And then we'll move on to a T bar, which would give me a T, and the T is the present. Then we'll go to a TP. Then the T will give us he. Okay, so the determinant phrase or the pronoun, let's call it pronoun, is he. So this expression, he, I messed up the sentence. Yes, I did mess up the sentence. Sorry about that. Let me fix it. So John, I should read more carefully. So John is happy. John is happy. So then we go to, it's the same thing. I shouldn't have done. Anyways, it's just that there's another embedded sentence and I don't have room. Again, nothing is new. Same struggles. So here we have a DP, and the DP should be John. And then we'll have, there's no need to go into the structure of the other sentence. I'm just gonna do the triangle trick. It's actually another TP. And it says, he said that. He said that. John is happy. Okay, so here we have John. This is our R expression. So basically, if we want to interpret this properly, John simply does not refer to anything. Not in the structure here. So it does not refer to this. Not in the TP that is outside its scope, and also not in the TP that is inside its scope. It just doesn't refer to anything. In the structure, of course, John has meaning. Probably the person using the noun would know who whom they are referring to, but in the structure, no. It will not be co-indexed with anything to fetch its meaning from upon being uttered. All right, so those are the 3 binding principles. Again, let's recap. Principle A. An anaphor must be bound in its governing domain, in its domain or its TP. Principle B. Pronominals like him, her, them should not be bound in their immediately dominating TP. And principle C. An R expression like a proper name or name of a place or a title like the president and so on should never be bound to anything. Freedom, total freedom. Let's be like our expressions. We want to be free. Okay, I hope this video is useful for you. Let me know if you like it by dropping a like, a comment. Tell me what kind of concepts you would like me to cover, and watch my other videos if you want to learn more about linguistics and syntax. Cheers.